What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Real Down. I'm your host, Jimmy Skinner. We're back. Sorry we missed y'all last week. Garrett was out
Yeah, we were
fishing.
busy.
Yeah, you were busy. I was I don't know. I was busy too. I was getting ready to leave, but
Yeah, you had to go work the expo and all that this weekend. So.
yeah, and most of the time the expos, it's like there's work, but they're kind of like relaxed. That was not the case. I have not been this tired from working a show ever, and I've worked ICAST, and this was way worse.
Busy weekend. I mean, they had a record attendance at the expo this year.
Yeah,
It's like
it's
163,000 or something like that.
yeah, tons of people.
That's a lot.
Saturday at the expo was absolutely insane. Our booth, I was up there with Lakewood Products. If you haven't heard of them or anything, go look up Lakewood Products if you're looking for some cool ass tackle storage. But I was working that booth with their sales lady Sarah, and it's like right by one of the entrances. So they'd funnel in and get stopped, and like you couldn't like move. You were just there, and it was nuts.
Yeah.
But it was fun. This is the least amount of money I've ever spent in the Classic Expo, so that was exciting
Yeah.
because I didn't have time to go buy anything.
Too busy to do. I can't say the same, but
No, I lost you for like 10 minutes. You came back with a like $500 live scope mount.
yeah. I tried to resist it and I couldn't do it. I was like,
No, it's cool though. I didn't know that's how those worked. I thought it was just a big fancy handle you spun around, and I was like, that is not worth $500. And then I was like, what's all the sprockets and gears in there for? And then you were like, whoop, and I was like, oh.
yeah, the sniper marine mounts are pretty sweet.
Dude, that's sick. Well, real quick, how was the tournament, man? You were down there. The event we're covering for this show is it was the Bassmaster Kayak Series Championship, the Kayak Classic. Garrett, you were in it, as well as the winners that we have on today. How did you feel about it?
I feel like it was probably some of the toughest fishing and conditions that I've fished in a while. Like, I mean, we had record low water levels. We had a massive cold front that dropped the water temps. Like, I think I've heard reports of like somewhere between 10 and 12 degrees in some areas. And then on top of that, the lake was condensed because there wasn't anywhere to launch from. So it was tough. Like, then we had rain all day the first day, to the point where a lot of people, their rain gear was failing them, and like myself, the bill of my hat soaked all the water up to the top of my head, and ended up like freezing my head just about.
That sucks.
I had to bail halfway through the day and go change ramps to just to warm up for a minute.
Man, I've been there. That shit sucks. And it's not. Sometimes it's not the rain gear's fault, man. It's like sitting in a bathtub in your rain gear after a certain point, dude. It's just not. It doesn't matter.
It was just a constant, steady rain the whole day, and it was cold, like at 45, 50-degree rain. So it was not fun, but
that sucks.
I got stubborn and didn't adapt to the conditions, and like I've found some good fish, and I caught a couple of them, but I just couldn't get enough of them to bite, and didn't work out so good for me. But these other two, they figured it out and grinded it out and made it work.
So I had money on one of them.
Yeah.
And then I had money on the other one. That way I didn't lose. And that's a dead honest. When I saw that one of these guests was coming, I've said it on this show, and once I introduce him, you can go back and listen to any show I've said it, that if he ever made it out to the Southeast, these boys would be in trouble. And I was right. But without any further ado, we're bringing in for the very first time Damian Thao, and had him on tons of times. We'll have him on tons of times more, I'm sure. But Mr. Russ Snyders, what's going on, fellas?
What's up, Jamie? What's up, Garrett?
What's
up, guys?
The champions.
Man, yeah, I feel like I haven't talked to Russ. I'm so excited to talk to him about it, just because like I was pulling for you guys. Really, it's crazy. You know, Russ, you're teammates with us over
Music City Outdoors. Yeah,
so we're pulling for you. But I'm not lying, man. Damien, when I saw that you were making the trip out here, and I was like, oh, I might have the ace in the hole here for a little pocket change. Like, well, Russ, we've had you on before, so I'm going to let you do your quick introduction before we get into it. And then Damian, since you've never been on, I'm going to give you a minute or two to talk and ask you a couple other questions. So take it away, Russ.
From or live in Nashville, Tennessee for the last 10 years, originally from Damian's home state there, California. So moved out about 10 years ago, and now Nashville, actually just outside Nashville, Pegram, Tennessee, just west of Nashville's home.
Heck yeah. What about you, Damian? Tell us about what Russ left out west and you have taken over.
My name's Damian Thao from Fresno, California, and just I've been here this whole time, and this is actually my first time going out to compete, so out of California, so it was pretty exciting.
How long have you been into kayak fishing? What got you into it?
I've always been a bank fisherman, and I've always just liked fishing. And of course, you just go to Dick's Sporting Goods and see a kayak, and you're like, "Oh, this would get us off the banks on the ponds." And we fish that stuff, and you look online, and then you find kayak groups, and then they're very small groups at the time. It was like, I believe it was like 2017. I joined Yakabas, which is something out west here, and they had a small group of guys, and they just completely blew up. And I just started keep fishing with them, and then a lot more trails just started coming in, and it's just been just kayak fishing ever since.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, everybody that listens to this show, here's the recaps, know that you're a dominant angler out there. Your name's always one that gets talked about. And we see a lot of the West Coast guys stay out in the West Coast. I mean, it's literally, like you said, you had a 36 to 38 hour drive back from Tennessee. So, literally the opposite side of the country. What was it that made you decide to make this event? I mean, it's obviously this is like the pinnacle event in kayak fishing right now, but I mean, was that it, or was there another driving factor to just finally get out of California, or what was it?
A lot of it had to do with my previous job. When I was working, I had qualified last year for the event as well, for that Bassmaster, but I couldn't make it because I could not get the days off of work. And at that time, it was what the top 13 from California was going. So I made the top 13, and then I qualified again. So this time they're only taking top 5 of California, and that was a much more harder challenge to get to. So I made the top 5, so I cannot turn it down this time, and try to get the days off of work, and just didn't work out. So I took the leap, and I made that trip out.
Well, it was worth it.
Yeah. Just quit that job. You don't need that job anymore.
Yeah, that was the case. I no longer work there. So.
There you go. That's right. He's living the dream, folks. He just walked in and told his boss, "I'm out. I'm going fishing. I'm done."
Yeah.
Well, so most everybody listening to this already knows the championship was on Lake Chick, with everybody's favorite director, Steve Owens, taking the reins on this one. I was excited that they actually let him do the award show too, because I was still kind of wondering if he was going to get screwed out of that. That made it so much better. I didn't get to make it over there. I had a misunderstanding of where the freaking award show was. So I waited till the last minute, and then it said it was a 25-minute walk from our booth. And I was like, okay,
the expo and the arena are like a couple
nowhere
miles
near
apart from
each other.
other.
Yeah. So then they were like, well, there's a shuttle. So I ran up to the shuttle. The shuttle had left. They're like, yeah, I'll be back in 20 minutes. And I was like, well, so I went in there, and we had like two phones going live stream and everything. But it was a really good show. But we'll just take a step back. Let's talk about, Damian, we'll start with you. Your trip over here, pre-fishing, the whole 9 yards. What was it like getting over here and just getting on Lake Chick for the first time? It's not even about the championship at that point. I mean, this is a huge move for you,
It was really the trip itself. It felt really fast to get to Tennessee, because we were just all excited. The drive felt really fast, and I didn't really remember much about the drive to Tennessee. And then when we got there, you're all excited about Lake Chickamauga. It's just a bucket list lake, and yeah, I had really high expectations for the place, and especially coming in, I thought I was gonna be fishing really shallow, fishing bedfish, and you get here, the ramps are out of the water, and everything is just it just doesn't seem like what I've seen on the YouTube videos and stuff. And you get out here, and yeah, and first day of practice, I struggled really hard, and I got skunked. But it didn't bother me too much because I did get 2 bites, and that really told me kind of what I need to be doing, what I need to be targeting. Because one bite was because I was fishing in a lot of grass, but I believe it was hydrilla that I was around that I got bit on. Because there's a lot of that
Mhm.
hairy stuff, and then there's hydrilla that's kind of planted to the ground. And I
Yeah.
got bit in the hydrilla versus the hairy stuff. And then when I did fish a little bit farther offshore, I got bit around wood instead of rock. So that kind of gave me a pretty good idea of what to do on game day. But that's the first day of practice. Second day of practice, we fished a completely different area. We fished out of Chester Frost. We fished inside of Dallas Bay. I didn't catch anything inside of the bay until once I started heading out towards the main channel. I fished the ledges out there. These are the spots that the fish were just uh, staging up on when it's getting ready to come
Yeah.
into spawn, or fish were just pulling out because the water temp was just not right, and they were just sitting there and just catching those fish. So with practice, it was really tough, but I felt like I had a pretty good game plan going in, and every time and when we did practice, my better bites came in the afternoon, so that really told me the afternoon bites can be where it's gonna be at for me, and anything before 12 was gonna be like a bonus fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grind.
That's awesome,
Yeah.
man. Well, it's cool to hear that, a world away from what you're used to, you quickly kind of figured it out and stuck to paying attention and fishing some strengths and
I
getting
really
out.
like what they did with this one, where they gave us a list of ramps. It really helps us guys that are not from the area to find ramps to launch from, and I really liked how they did that. It was just really nice that it was kind of like that. And I think with the weather, it really played a little bit more towards my favor because uh, when the bite's really good, I generally tend to do really terrible. Everybody seems to be catching them,
Yeah.
and I just can't catch them. But if the bite's tough, it fish kind of like California, where the bite's always tough. So it's a lot of pressure. And when we got there, the water temps are really low, and it's just cold, so it's tough. So I felt kind of pretty much at home when the fishing is tough.
That's awesome. I don't know how many people can actually say that.
Yeah.
Well, Russ.
Kind of evens the
So
playing field more when it's tough for everybody.
yeah, it just makes me suck worse.
Yeah.
But so Russ, the local champ, you've got tons of experience on this. How did you come into practice? I mean, I would assume that even there's off limits time and stuff like that, but you've kind of been ready for this one for a while, probably.
Yes and no. Like I said, with the lake being so low, it was like showing up at a whole different lake. And I just got done with what at Caddo. I got done with Caddo, and I've been on the road so long that by the time I got back home, so I went 2 months, and I was literally at home for 18 hours in that 2 month period. So it was my first time to
Jeez.
actually be at home for an entire week, and had a long list of stuff to do. So I really didn't get out there until the tournament started Wednesday. So Monday night, like I checked in at 5 o'clock. I went and saw Steve-O, checked my board. I'm like, screw it. I got like hour and a half, 2 hours. Might as well use it. So I went to an area where I got a big one last year for I think it was for the Bassmaster State Championship, I guess. I'm pretty sure. So that tournament, I was trying to figure it out. But yeah, anyways, I got one close to 10 pounds last fall or last late summer there. So I'm like, I'm gonna go and check this little area. It's something that I could check relatively quick and within a couple hours, at least get an idea if it's worthwhile or not. So I went out there for 2 hours or so. It was really it was just the main lake area. There's a couple backwaters around too, but my thought was that with the lake being so low, it was going to suck a lot of those fish out of the backwaters and push them out into the main lake. And the main it's kind of in between, not river or lake. It's kind of in between the both. There was just a little bit of current there still in that section. And they were setting up on those stumps. There's a bunch of stumps. Some of them were just barely sticking out of the water, and some of them were still underneath the water. But I got them pre-fishing. I got 3 fish throwing a Nico rig Senko on those stumps one of them was a really fat, like 19.5 incher or so. So I'm like, all right, there's at least quality fish here. And I went into one of the backwaters and had maybe 5 bites or so in there. The couple that I hooked and landed were like just 13 inchers, but I shook off a couple and saw a couple boiling around that looked big. So I was like, and everything in there was just, that whole area was pretty straightforward. Really, there wasn't anything like you had to, you're on giant grass flats and like trying to find the sweet spots or anything. It's all, what you see is what you get pretty much. So I at least knew that there was good fish there. I knew that the tournament conditions first day were going to be completely different. So I had no idea what I was going to fish or how I was going to fish, but I rigged up. And then so the second day of pre-fish, I went way up to Hiwassee, actually way up, like past usually there's a boundary on the bridge, but this time because of the designated launches, there was a designated launch boundary. That was the farthest one up, but I went way up from there, launched at a different ramp that was, I wouldn't have been able to launch in a tournament, but I just wanted to get way up there and really try to find, focus on areas too where I can have some stuff to myself, like be around current and have some water to myself. But didn't do any good up there. Only caught like 1 or 2 fish. So went for it first morning. That morning it was just, I said, cold and rainy, and I had a bunch of rods rigged, and every 5 minutes I was just kind of switching rods, just trying to get a bite on something to just kind of feel out what was going on. My first fish was on a big swim bait, the new
Nice.
Bass Mafia Zaldangerous 7-inch swim bait.
Hell
And
yeah, that's awesome.
it was a big one. I was cruising along with the Torpedo, nice and slow. And like I said, some of the stumps you'd see out of the water, and I came up on one where it was under the water, and it wasn't until I was like pretty close to it where I saw it, and I was like, oh shit, I got up on it too fast. So I just tried to pump the brakes and push my rod back a little bit and just kind of lower my rod so I can get that swim bait to hit that stump as best as possible. And sure enough, right at the kayak, that big one, 22.5, but it was super like short and fat and stocky. It was over 7 pounds.
Wow.
Smashed it, ran straight underneath my boat towards the motor, and it was just thrashing her. It was going crazy. But I got it in, and after that I felt pretty confident about keeping that swim bait in my hand, so I just kept after it. Only got 10 bites all day, and one of them was flipping. The other 9 bites were on the swim bait, and I went 7 for 9 on the swim bait. I only missed 2 bites on it, which is really good, especially when you're throwing something with just, I was using a 10-aught owner beast hook. And most of them they were taking it good. Midway through the day, I kind of cut back on, so I already had a pretty solid limit. And at that point, I was like, all right, I'm going to kind of experiment with some different lures and some different stuffs. I didn't want to show them the swim bait too much because I wanted to, get some more fish the next day, obviously, but nothing else really worked. Didn't upgrade any, didn't really do much. And then next day went out there. I was thinking it was going to be really good. Got off to a fast start. I got 3 fish in the first half hour. And then the next, then I started missing a lot, probably 5 or 6 fish in a row, or just starting to swipe at the swim bait. They weren't taking it the same. Did finally get a 4th one, and I had about 6 hours left in the tournament. And I was like, I just need to get a 5th fish. All of them were over 16. I think I had 19, a 17, a couple 16s. And it's like, I'm just going to grind it out. I just need to get one more. And I'm like, I'm not going to put the swim bait, take it, I'm going to keep it in my hands the rest of the day. And hour by hour went by, and I didn't get a single sniff on it. And eventually I was like, all right, I got to mix up in some other techniques, started flipping some of the wood, started doing some other stuff, nail rig Senkos again, and crankbaits and other stuff. I was just kind of scrambling. Eventually I got to a point where I'm like, I'm just going to abandon all this. And I went on about a 30-minute Torpedo run, went to a little backwater area, and just kind of junk fish. The water started coming back up because we had that rain, so that water was starting to come back up. Some of those backwaters are starting to warm up. So I think a lot of reason the fishing was so tough that day too is just a day of transition where the fish were moving. Like the areas they were setting up on feeding, they were leaving those and just in the process of moving to new areas. At least in the area I was at, that's how it kind of felt.
Yeah.
But I was able, with a half hour left, I was able to finally get a bite on a red Lucky Craft square bill crankbait, just on a back end of a laydown, and it was 16 and a half incher, and that was one of the most important fish I've ever caught, probably.
Yeah.
That's,
Like a $20,000 fish right there.
that was, I would have
Yeah.
maybe barely got a check without it, pretty much, or so it made a big difference. So
That's
cool.
insane. How
Well,
stressful was it, like leading up to that
those
last hour?
6 hours. There's times, where I get snagged on a log. I get a good cast and I get snagged, or something would happen, and something, and part of me wanted to get really like angry and frustrated, because I'm just like, there's so much stress on getting that fish. But I just constantly had to tell myself, like, there's no time to have any kind of emotion right now at all. Like,
save it for the end.
I'm like, I'm gonna be mad at myself if I do that. So I just have to put my head down and just put 100% of my focus into somehow catching a fish, and it worked out.
Well, Damian, run us through your 2 days at the tournament, and then we'll just kind of step back and we'll ask y'all some questions and just hit some key points and kind of go over everything.
Yeah, so first day of tournament day, we got a lot of rain. I had a pretty solid game plan going, and my game plan was, to have 2 launches. So I know that my big fish bites are going to be in the afternoon. So I have a spot where I'm going to do a lot of calling. And during practice, that's big fish spot, I did not get any bites in the morning until once I started coming back into load up, and I would get bit in that spot. So that kind of told me that these fish were not turning on until afternoon. And with that going into tournament day, I spent half my day at Chester Frost on day 1. So alongside of there, I went out and fished that deep ledge because I felt I can get a quick limit over there, and that was the main goal for that spot. I went and sat on those ledges. There's 3 good offshore spots that I felt like that if they weren't one, they were going to move out further, or if not, they're just going to slowly move in.
Did you have a lot of people in the area? Because Chester Frost is just a very, anybody that doesn't even know anything about Chick, if you say anything, they say Chester Frost. So was there just a ton of people out there with you?
There was a lot of people in the bay, but where I was at, I was late going out towards the main channel, so I was really far off of all the juicy stuff that's inside. So I was fishing just that deeper water, and and a majority of the guys that I had seen, they were fishing really shallow, and all that offshore stuff, I had it to myself.
Awesome.
Yeah. So basically,
I feel like the offshore bite would have been a safer bet as far as this event with that cold weather. You can kind of rely on that a little more.
Yeah, I feel like those fish aren't affected too much. So with the weather changing, those fish are either gonna move out or just slowly move in, but they're not gonna completely make that big change to go right to the bank because they're still too far out. So I kind of gambled on those, and I got a limit real quick. And when I got the limit, once it hit about 10 or 11 o'clock, I switched ramps and I ran to Holly Park and made the drive all the way to Holly Park. And immediately I get to the spot and I catch I believe like a 17-incher, like first cast on that spot. So I fished it for quite a while, and I caught maybe one more dink, and then I got off of it. I went back to the bay to check because I always have to check those grasses. Who knows, those fish might have turned on. So I went up in the grass and I spent a good amount of time on that. I didn't get any bites. Ran all the way back to the offshore ledge. That it was what it is a channel. The channel swings around, and at the end of that hump, there's a standing timber. So all my fish were around that standing timber. There was about 2 standing timbers near there, and they were kind of separate. But that's what I was really targeting. And when I came back to that spot, as soon as I got one, I pretty much got them all fired up, and I caught one pretty much every cast. It was pretty insane. The bite was just really good. I lost a lot of good fish because I kind of I was just feeling it, so I didn't bother changing checking my knots and stuff, and I should have, but you're just kind of in the moment. So I just kind of got out of changing the knots, changing the line, and checking my leaders because all my fish came in when my bait was actually hung in the brush. So I could feel my my Carolina rig weight coming through, and then I can feel my lure gets like kind of caught on the limbs, and the sinker will sink down the limbs, and I slowly shake it, and it'll slowly fall down, and it'll kind of be like a weightless creature, and that's when they'll hit it. And a lot of my fish, when I leaned in on them, they were in the tree. So
Just buried up in there.
Yeah, just buried up in there. But I had a nice soft rod. I was fishing that 10-pound P-line tactical, really light line. And I'm just holding those fish until they swam out of that tree. And
Wow.
that was it for day one. Day one, it was once the bite turned on, it was good. So at the end of the day, I was sitting in about, I think, ninth place or something. So I was
Yeah,
like, oh
ninth
man,
place.
I thought I was doing pretty good out there, but I was like, okay, at least I made the top 10. But after seeing Russ and those guys there, they got over 90 plus, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, we got to make some big gambles. So, uh, with the rain that we had and a little bit warmer, I was thinking, oh man, these guys that are on them are gonna be really hammering them. So I gotta just make a gamble. So instead of going to Chester Frost and launching there and getting a limit, I just gambled it all on my big fish spot. So I went straight to my big fish spot. I invested my entire time there, and I believe I did not get a limit till like 12 o'clock. And the whole time I was kind of, my head was telling me, man, you just threw a top 10 away. You should have just
Yeah.
you should have just went with your original game plan. That's what I was telling myself. I kept telling myself that because uh, trying to make a big gamble like that, it just did not work out well for me. But, uh, I was struggling for a limit, and once I did get my limit, it was a very small limit. I think I had like 76 inches or something like that. And,
Hmm.
I was getting ready to, I didn't get any bites, and I was getting ready to rig up a drop shot. But as soon as I was grabbing my hooks and stuff and my sinkers and digging through my worms, and then I had my rod in my hand, and then I got a bite, and then I landed that fish. It was a 19. I was like, oh, okay, I guess we just keep doing this. And then right,
Yeah.
and then right after that, we started getting more bites, and then right, I think the last like 15 minutes, I caught a 20 incher, and once that bite kind of just once that window kind of opened up, the bite just started getting good. But I didn't even think I was gonna make a top 10, because I felt like if I got on such a good bite at the end like that, everybody else is gonna get on such a good bite like that too, because
Yeah.
the bite window opens up usually for everybody on the lake. So I was kind of like, man, maybe I might made a top 10, but if everybody got on them, you know, it seemed like the right kind of conditions to be fishing shallow. So if you were up shallow, I felt like these guys that were fishing shallow. In my head, I was telling me these guys that are fishing shallow are gonna really be on them, because the water temp is a little bit warmer, is a little bit muddier. The water had gone up, and
Yeah.
I felt like those guys that were fishing shallow were gonna really just smash them out there. So uh,
Well,
yeah,
they
that's
didn't.
that's yeah.
Or I
I
didn't.
mean,
At least.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's what I felt like. So the whole time I was just thinking that, and it was just kind of playing in my head. But at the same time, I'm glad I just stuck to what I was doing, and it kind of paid off. Got me up in the top three. So
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so with this being, the championship, chance to walk across the stage, hoist the trophy. How did either of y'all approach this one any different than you do any other tournament initially? I mean, obviously going from day one to day two, seeing how you did in day one, Damien, like you said, he had ninth, but I mean, that's the whole thing behind a multi-day tournament, stacking together multiple good days. So there's always a chance to move up and win, or fumble it. And same thing for the guys that were up front. You have that chance to completely mess your day up, or have things happen and your fish not be there. But did y'all prepare initially any different than you normally would?
Yeah, I kind of went into it at least having an idea that I was going to put some time into, invest some time into throwing bigger swim baits and stuff. And remember sitting at home talking to my roommate, my good friend Adam Reiser, and just kind of getting game plan for what we think would play out. And I was telling him that I saw it as a good opportunity to throw a big swim bait, and since there wasn't a points race or anything like that, and
Yeah.
since the payout was so there was a significant difference between first and just getting a check, so I was like, I'm going to go for it and at least invest a good amount of time throwing swim baits.
I think like even if you talk to the guys that fish the Bassmaster Classic, they all say something like they're
Pause.
going to go swing for the fences in this event, because like there's, like you're saying, there's no points involved, so anything
Yeah.
below like not winning it is like not on their radar, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's the classic, like go for
Yeah.
broke. What do you got to lose other than that trophy?
Yeah.
What about you, Damien? Did you just take this as like first trip out to the East Coast? I'm just going to enjoy myself.
Yeah, that's kind of how I was going. Wanted to enjoy myself at the same time because I kind of, it's a little bit harder for me to swing for the fences because I don't have much knowledge on this place. Very any.
Yeah.
I did my research on the lake on the drive up. So it was I was looking through Navionics, looking through like what looks what looks really promising to me, and I didn't know much about what the fish actually do on the lake, like how they react to current, or if any of that stuff, or which section of the lake I need to be at. It was really so basically with that, we're going with something like that. I just went out to try to enjoy myself, and it was just pretty crazy to be in the top 10 on day one because, my practice was so bad. I didn't think I was going to be up there, but I just fished it like I fished any other tournament, and what I was fishing, I felt very confident because everybody I seen was fishing shallow. So when I was able to find fish offshore, I had all the offshore stuff to myself. So I
Yeah.
felt really comfortable, and which is nice because, back here in California, when you're fishing offshore, you're not the only one there in that one spot. It may be a big lake, but it fish is very small, so
Mhm.
it's a communal. But for some reason, for this place, it seemed like majority of the guys were on the bank, and who knows? That was probably the right bite, but for me, I just didn't feel like it was consistent for me. So I fished that offshore, and there's actually a single target I can target and just really find it in the area and just really fine tune it. So just dissect a little small section of the lake and just really figure that out. And that's
Yeah.
basically what I did because with your when you have very limited knowledge of the lake or where to go, you know it's really hard to like swing for the fences.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, and it
to
sounds
bounce
like you.
around all over the place and stuff. Like you kind of had to pick one area and just dissect it.
Well, it's just like you
And
said.
that's
You're
kind of
you're used to fishing, areas that fish small. So it kind of made sense for you to find, basically, like you said, a single target. Something that's fishing small. I didn't mean to cut you off, Russ. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say that's kind of the essence of kayak fishing in general is kind of
Yeah.
breaking down, like finding one general area and having kind of seeing everything it has to offer and really finding the spot in the spot. Really learning the details of. Since I've gotten into kayak fishing, it's changed my outlook on how I approach things. Definitely more towards that style of fishing, where instead of running all over, you just really, really, really learn all the subtle details.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that Garrett, you and I have talked about quite a few times, that we need to stop
Yeah.
finding a spot and find a spot in that spot because we cover too much water a lot of the time.
Yeah,
But
especially with the motors and stuff now. I'm a
yeah, dude,
little
I'm
more
telling
itchy
you,
to
as
jump
much as I
and
love
start
it, I feel
running
like I need to
somewhere.
take the motor off. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, because I'm bad. I'll find a good fish, and instead of me just like stopping and maybe fishing that one small area that came from, I'm immediately like, well, this whole spot, it's got these big fish. And that's not the damn truth.
I
Well,
mean, I can't say that I did that on the first day of the event. I fished one spot for 6 hours, and I was like, "All right, it's not happening here." So
I,
it took everything in me to do that, but uh, yeah,
so just because you were talking about it fishing small and how California, you usually have company. Russ, you had a little company, didn't you?
I did, yeah. The area I was at, it was like I said, everything was kind of straightforward. It wasn't like there was a lot of contours or you can go even off the bank or anything like that. It was either just straight banks on both sides, with a few backwater areas that were kind of limited, where they were concentrated kind of just in the very beginnings of those backwater areas before it eventually opened up in some ponds, but you couldn't even get back there.
yeah,
But yeah, Drew Gregory was fishing there with me. He was focusing more on those backwater areas, and every time I went into one, I had no idea that I was following right behind him. So it wasn't until he kind of was going in and then turned back out, and I was like 3/4 of the way in. And I'm like, "Hey, Drew." I was like, I realized, oh man, I was fishing behind him this whole time. So most of my bites, except for that last one, really came on the main river. But also shared with Eric Siddiqui and Matt Scotch a little bit as well, and they were all three of them were extremely considerate, and yeah, we had no issues. You know, I we had no issues at all.
That's awesome.
No issues except too many people in one area. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't too bad. There was a lot of water. So
yeah.
yeah.
I
Well,
did
no,
that
that's
on one of the days of practice. I motored to a spot that was like 6 miles from the closest ramp, and it was a little backwater slough like you're talking about. And I was sitting there like just kind of looking around and fishing a little bit, and Christine and Guillermo roll up and they're on me like 10, 15 minutes after I've been there. And I was like, man, I can't get away from anybody out here.
that's funny. So let's go into the end of day one. So when the leaderboards were going early, Russ had the early lead, and then couple more big bags. You know, Lambert and Luke Graham dropped some good fish up by the dams. A lot of folks I talked to said there were a bunch of people up that way fishing. Did y'all, you know, seeing how the weather was changing, what you were going through day one, what it was expected to do going into day two? Did you kind of were y'all, you know, hoping that their bite changed and that yours was improving? I mean, that's kind of obvious, but did you have any concerns about what they had going on and if what you had found could beat it? And either one of y'all can start with that one.
Go ahead, Damien.
You know, yeah, of course you see like 90 plus inches and it really kind of plays in your head. But you know, will my spot be able to compete with that? Most likely not. But at the same time, you don't have much options. So, uh, going in, I try not to let it play on my head into day two because you're just gonna go out there and just try your best and just keep your head down, and just keep fishing, and hopefully it happens for you. But you know, with the weather change, of course you feel like it's gonna be that big bite that's gonna happen for a lot of guys. But just going into it, you know, I try not to let it get in my head and just focus on doing what I'm doing and just keep doing my same pattern and just hope those big ones show up for me. That's basically what I did.
Awesome, and it worked. You know, keeping your head dialed into what you're doing. That question was just kind of, you know, a lot of guys can become a head case. You know, you it's really easy to lose sight of what you've got going for you when you're so worried about, you know, beating somebody else, or, oh man, that guy caught 98 inches yesterday. My spot's not got 98 inches, blah, 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 blah. And then you get in a whirlwind, and then before you know it, you're fishing somewhere else. What about you, Russ? Did you have any
Yeah,
concern?
I knew like sometimes yeah, a lot more of that stuff can get in my head, but with the day that I had on the first day and the fact that the wind was going to be blowing, it was going to be a little warmer. I actually had a lot of confidence going to that second day, thinking that swim bait, especially in the beginning when I started off getting so many bites,
Yeah.
I really thought that that I was pretty dialed into what I wanted to do, and I didn't need to make too many adjustments. And it ended up I did need to make some adjustments after all. And as far as other people, starting off in third place, yeah, I know that I can only control the variables that are in front of me, and a lot of times I just put my focus on just me against the fish rather than me against these other people. But seeing some big smallmouth and just knowing the potential of what can happen there at the dam, and seeing Ryan up on top, when I know he's fishing in I don't know if he caught all his fish I know he fished by the dam, but I don't think he caught them by the dam actually. But in my head, I assumed he did, and yeah, and having him at the top is a little extra motivation
Yeah.
to have me work hard and want to beat him. So there was that, but yeah, I was pretty focused going into day two, and I didn't let any other variables or anything off the water rattle me at all. I just yeah, it's not always like that, but in this case, I had a pretty good head going into the second day.
Awesome.
That
So
makes sense.
game's over. Y'all got your last key bites, so you're feeling good. Leaderboard's off. You get your message that you're in the top 10. How'd that feel, Damien? How are you? Like,
It felt really good because the whole day I didn't check the leaderboard, so I was like, Oh man, this is it's you got warmer temperatures and the water's a little dirtier, so I felt like I thought that those guys that were throwing reaction up shallow were gonna really hammer them. So I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. I just did what I could offshore, and you know, if it doesn't turn out well, it's all right. I gave it what we can." And when I got the text, I was pretty surprised. I was like, "Oh, it even made top 10." And then we get there, and then it was like the first and the 13th place. I was like, "Oh, maybe I got 13th or 12th." So I was like, I was kind of, and then when I found out I was in the top 10, I was like, "Oh, sweet." I probably made like ninth or eighth or something like that. I was feeling pretty good about that, and how they had it, so we didn't tell anybody what we got at the end, or nobody knows how many inches we had. So it was really exciting. It's because we didn't know what anybody else had. So at the time, you're just
But
glad I was just glad I was there.
you had no ideas that you had busted into the top 5. Like you were not confident that you had got much higher than like ninth, 10th place.
Yeah, I was not. I wasn't. That's the thing because I had 80 inch on day one, 88-inch on day two, right? And I was like, oh man, somebody's gonna be on these fish, and they're gonna really hammer them with this kind of conditions. But I was very surprised when I was up there, and yeah, when they're calling names down out the inches. When I noticed the inches, I was like, wait, I got quite a. I was like, oh, it's probably gonna be. And then I saw at the end it was just me and Russ. I was like, oh shoot.
That I bet that it goes from like not really a low, but you're like, oh, I did okay. Oh, well, I did a little better, and then it's like, oh shit, did I win? Like,
Yeah.
like, did I screw this up and win this? Like, what happened? Well, Russ, so with you having, you know, third place day one, knowing that you had, another, pretty good day, to kind of help seal the deal. What were you thinking? You saw Luke Graham had still made the top 10. He was second place in day two. Did you have some confidence? Like, okay, I've got this. I don't think they were able to get on me, or any idea at all?
Yeah, I was looking at the leaderboard, and with 4 fish right before it got shut off, I was in 5th place still with 4 fish, and I think I was like 5 inches, I guess, from the lead, and then but I saw that Ryan. I didn't see Ryan. There's a lot of variables where I didn't know what Ryan had. I didn't know what Damian had and see him. And I kind of looked at a little bit of it, and when I finally did catch that fish, when when the leaderboard was shut off, I knew according to when the leaderboard went off, I would have had about a 10-inch lead, but that's without yeah, like I said, without a couple people submitting their fish, and who knows how many upgrades. But I still thought, I was like, 10 inches is a lot. And when I got back home, me and my friends were kind of looking at screenshots of the leaderboards and kind of get, based on we had a little round table where everybody kind of talked a little bit about their day. And there was a couple people that one guy said something about catching a really big fish at the end. And he asked Steve, he's like, you want me to tell how big? And Steve was like, no, don't say how big. I was like, well, shoot, if somebody got like a 24 or 25 and called out like a 14 or 13, like that could be something. So between that
I
and,
think it was
Damon,
close. It was like a 23 something.
was it? Yep.
Yeah, 23 and a quarter is what it was.
Gotcha. I was most worried about Damian, though. I know the level of his talent, and I know that he had 88 inches, and it would take 92, just over 92, and I'm like, that's totally within reason of thinking he could have got that based on him getting 88 and just he's a good angler. So. So in my head, like as it got in the back of my mind, I'm like, it's gonna be me or Damien. Like, I bet he's got me. I kind of thought that as it was going. I'm like, it's all right. Second place is okay. It's all right. And, yeah. And then when it got down to the two of us, I was like, yep,
Here it comes.
It's gonna be, here it comes. And then and it was announced that I won. So I was, obviously pretty happy about that, but definitely. I got a lot of respect for Damien and how well he did, especially being at a fishery that he's never been to, or even this part of the country he's never been. There's definitely, it took me anyways. It was definitely a bit of a learning curve for me coming from California out here, and for him to adapt that fast and find some unorthodox techniques and just doing things kind of against the grain or against what most people would think you should do it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, catch fish
Absolutely.
like that.
Thanks,
I,
Russ. A lot of respect for you too, man.
Thanks, Damon.
dude, Carolina rig in the trees,
Right?
bro.
Yeah.
When I first heard that at the expo, I was like, "What? That just sounds like a
Yeah.
snagged nightmare." I'd have so many problems even attempting that, and but how just to go back to it, how you said you saw y'all's two names up there, Damien. You know, it's a bummer you didn't win. I mean, you're always bummed out when you get so close, but then you have that second, like, holy shit, I just got second place against, the top anglers in the country. I'm on the Bassmaster Classic stage. Like, what was that like? Just
Oh man, it was really exciting because, you know, after like day one, it was like, I was sitting in the top 10, and I got all these California guys like, oh hey, like it was just so much pressure, and then to actually get up on stage and just be there, and then have all these California guys supporting me this whole time, and and you, you know, of course it's you get bummed out because you didn't win, but at the same time, you know, coming from it was like ninth place, I was like, man, I felt pretty happy about that. I made a good jump. So at the same time, I was just really happy to be on that stage and to get second place. I was just like, hey, I will take that. I
Any
was
day.
just
Yeah.
yeah, I was just really happy, and being there for fishing Chickamauga for my first time, I was like, I felt I did pretty good for myself. So uh you know I'm just, and it's really cool that Russ got the win. I mean, who else is a better person to take the win, right? So,
yeah,
I was,
man. I
it
fully
was,
agree.
yeah,
You too, like, I don't know. I'm telling you, just doing this show, you pay attention to tournaments and you listen as much as you can, and you kind of learn how these guys do things and like whose head's really in it, who's really got it going on, and not knocking anybody else that was in the tournament, but especially after day one, I checked down the top 20. We knew Russ was in third, but when I saw your name in ninth, I was like, here he comes. Like, if he's got it figured out enough to top 10 first time he's been out this way, because I was assuming it was your first time out here. I was like, he could have the ace in the hole, and he's the threat that's going to make the move. And to see you do it, man, and congrats to you. You're top notch. I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to like blow your ego up or anything. We always cover shows at the end of each show, and it became a joke. Like, it'll say like, well, the Yakabass, and I'll be like, Damian Thao is either first, second, or third, and I can almost guarantee that every time. Like,
Yeah.
does it, doing this event and now you don't have the restraint from the job and everything. Do you think you're going to try to come play around on the East Coast a little more and travel?
yeah, I would definitely like to, because I like what's out there. There's just so much competition. It's it's just a different ball game. It was really fun. I got to meet a lot of people out there. It was really nice, and they do it so much more bigger out there. It just seemed like where I was at, it's just everybody fishes. We were at the grocery store, and the people were wanting to talk to us about fishing. Just, just
Yeah.
it was pretty insane. You just walk in, just buying like chips and stuff, and everyone's like, "Oh, did you guys go fishing today?" And like everybody just fishing there, so it was pretty nice.
Yeah.
I definitely do want to come back out. It's just kind of a very expensive trip to make those trips out there, especially since I don't have a job now. So it's gonna be a lot harder. So
Gotta keep winning tournaments. You don't need to worry about
Yeah.
it.
I was fixing to say, this man's won enough that I've listened to that I'm surprised you have a job, man. Like, you're already living the dream. Well,
Just gonna have to get like a storage unit out here or something and just fly out to it
There
whenever
you
you
go.
want to go fish a tournament.
man, I'm sure we could find you a job and somebody to stay with up here. Like, Tennessee's booming just like everywhere else in the country. Perfect time to move.
Definitely.
But so Russ, they call Damien second. What, that moment while you're waiting, what's happening? Like, are you just like
Yeah, I showed a
whirlwind?
little bit. You kind of. I was surprisingly pretty calm. Sometimes it just depends. Sometimes I get up on stage and I don't know what to say, and I get a little nervous, and other times I'm just yeah, so no big deal. I was surprisingly kind of calm in the moment, but also excited. I show probably a little more emotion than I do a lot of other times, because most times I kind of already know that I've won, or I've got, or how I place before I get up there. And in this case, I really did have no idea, and kind of liked it that way. It just made it that much more exciting. And
Suspenseful.
yeah, so I tried to kind of embrace the moment, and just kind of soak it all in. And it's not every day you get, I get to go up on the biggest stage in bass fishing, and kind of be able to live out your childhood dream of holding the big blue trophy up on that stage, and have Steve-O as the MC and the director, and he's somebody I've grown to be close with over the last several years, and I'm just so happy for all his success. And he killed it up on stage and just did such a great job. And I think everybody, the whole kayak community's really thankful for him kind of taking the reins and leading bass in the right direction, obviously.
Yeah,
absolutely. You could tell there's so many pictures and the video clips from like 60 different phone angles, and you can see your emotion, Steve-O's emotion for you, because y'all are friends and he knows you, and it was just a really cool moment to capture.
Yeah.
And it made it feel better in the bigger end because of how the classics have been handled before, or the Bass Kayak Series Championship, whatever. It always, like, it was just leaving it for more. There was just like, this could have been done better. But
yeah,
I definitely didn't
finally,
feel. Yeah, I didn't
they
feel that
dropped
way
the
about
ball
this
a
one.
few times. The first, and there's always growing pains with anybody doing anything new. I'm just grateful for them taking that first step and jumping in to give us opportunity. Like I said, there's a few things that maybe they didn't do right or could have done better, but it's easy to criticize, that. But at the same time, when it's they eventually got it right and got the right person in there to have that leadership role, and create some awesome opportunity for us kayak anglers.
Absolutely, man.
Did
Well,
you ever think when you were a kid that you'd win a blue trophy out of a plastic boat?
No, yeah, no idea until I just made a post about that when I bought my first kayak. It was about 6 years ago to this day. I just kind of, I just had, at that point, if you would have told me like the road I'd go down and like just what my life is now compared to then, I just I wouldn't believe it, like, at all. I just
How many
big laugh.
trophies do you think you've won out of that one boat?
How
I was telling
many
somebody, like,
how many
big tournaments
trophies?
have you?
Big,
Yeah,
like, made between KBF, Bassmaster, and Hobie.
well, just any of them.
A
Yeah,
state champion. I don't know.
A
I was
lot.
telling
You've
somebody the
had
other day that that boat probably, if there's
15.
ever like a kayak Hall of Fame, that boat needs to be like
It
up there.
it should, man. I've
But
never
you've
cracked
had the
it
same
once.
attack the whole time, right?
The same exact attack. That's the original one. Never, it got a hole in it. It's never like left me, giving me any problems like at all. It's the most dependable kayak. I just blows my mind that it's just treated me so good. There's been little things, like a little rubber strap to hold on the front hatch, or like little things, the keel guard I've replaced, and like the little stuff like that I've just maintained and replaced. But otherwise,
Yeah,
it's never left me in a situation where anything's broke in a tournament and left me hanging, or it's treated me exceptionally well.
Hey,
I'm really happy for about it.
we had a joke this weekend in the booth that kayak has cleared enough money to buy one of those like nice glitter rockets. Like, and I would guarantee that.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, I would say
possibly
that
twice
kayak's
over.
won more money out of it than probably a lot of the glitter rockets that are out there.
Yeah.
I put it up there against a lot of those.
It's
I'm
fun.
telling
It's
you,
done,
I'm
treated me
still
well.
waiting for a joint tournament. Top 10 kayak anglers, top 10 bass boat
Right?
anglers. Same lake, 2 days. I want to see what happens.
Let's do it. I'm down.
Dude,
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
been pushing for that. I have said something to Steve-O about it. Anybody I can find, like, talk to Dustin Connell about it. Like, I just want it to happen. It don't have to be televised. I don't care. I just want it to happen. Like,
If we can get more of those bass boat tournaments to start practicing the CPR, catch, photo, and release, I think that would be the next step and really going a long way to help preserve our lakes and our fisheries and just
Absolutely.
yeah. Like I know they're pretty accustomed to, and I've always, growing up doing bass boat tournaments, for isn't a little bit of an adjustment for me. And but now that I've been doing it this way, it just seems weird to be putting fish in live wells and taking them all the hour from the lake and bringing them inside of an arena and all that. Just I don't. Most of them are probably okay and live and all that, but just the fact they're all released in the same area, I don't know. It would go a long way to make the fisheries better, I believe, if the bass boats would practice that too. So hopefully one day, and then it could be kind of an even playing field too, as far as having kayaks against the bass boats too, where it's all one system as far as how to
Absolutely
score them.
I was talking to my buddy about this the other day that fishes out of bass boats, that it's almost more difficult to do the catch photo release because if you don't feel a limit, you're almost out of it. Like that
Yeah.
that 12-inch fish. Well, 12-inch fish on a bass boat doesn't make a whole lot of difference because you can make that difference up with one fish.
Yeah, 1 pound as opposed
Yeah.
to 12. Yeah. So it's a
Yeah,
little bit different, but it's still the same game in the
Yeah.
end. Like it's there's little differences, but it's not the same difference between what like MLF did between taking your best 5 and just doing an unlimited amount where you just keep increasing your total. That's a drastic difference, and I was never a big fan of that. But just doing the 5 fish, just like how we do it in the kayak tournaments, I think a lot of bass boat guys, even though it'd be an adjustment at first, I think they'd benefit from it in the long run.
Absolutely. I mean, because there's they have their obstacles too. Got to keep the fish alive. Fish fluctuate weight in live wells. Like there's challenges there too. But unfortunately, I think that it's going to take like fisheries really declining before it starts to get really pushed in that direction.
Kentucky Lake.
Yeah, Kentucky Lake. What I was going to say. We have too many fisheries that we see go downhill, and it's just like anything in the hunting world. These changes only come about because something has gotten so bad. So
you look at like Lake Eufaula too. Is when I kind of we brought this up a little bit on KBN last night, but Lake Eufaula is another one where it just gets hammered with boat tournaments, and there's just not that healthy of a population. There's certain areas like where they have the tournaments out of where it just gets jam packed full of people because that's where all the fish are brought to. But all these other areas that if they didn't have tournaments would at least have enough population to fish that area in a tournament, where now those areas they get depleted to the point where there's just not enough populations to compete with the areas where all the tournament fish are released.
Absolutely.
So in certain lakes it doesn't affect, that doesn't happen the same. Certain areas they release fish all in one area, and it's not necessarily going to be one there, but there are definitely lakes across the country where fishing for release fish in crowded areas is your best option, and a lot of that's just because of the system of weighing them in and letting them all go, where in those lakes I think would be the biggest difference, where if they did the catch, photo, and release would really help those lakes a lot.
Damian, I was going to ask you, we've seen some of the boat guys make the transition, obviously out here, because we always seem to keep the big trails out here. And we've, Greg DePalma this year, Bassmaster lead angler, jumped in the kayak and did one. Do y'all ever have any or see any that maybe doesn't get any, popular like media coverage, but do y'all ever have any of the boat guys swap over out there, like known, even if they're just fishing opens and stuff like that? Do y'all see a lot of the boat guys make the transition yet?
No, we don't. Not that I know
Obidi.
of. Oh yeah, Obidi.
Obidi.
Yeah. I
Obidi.
forgot about my boy Obidi. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it didn't seem like he was making the transition. It seemed like he was in the whole time already. So,
Yeah.
so it didn't seem like he was making transition, because I think when I started tournament fishing, it seemed like he was already almost doing it with us. So it didn't seem like a big transition. So other than Obidi, that's the only guy that I know.
That's crazy. And I don't know, California has still got some of the great fisheries, and you still hear, I don't know, anybody that follows anything on social media, you hear about Clear Lake and Berryessa and all these pictures and tournaments and, big fish catches and stuff like that. So it's not surprising to me that the boats, it's usually they're like you said, it's large bodies of water, but they just fish small. So I'm sure kayak fishing doesn't appeal to a lot of people out there yet. But down here, me personally, I see so much of it, of the transition. I mean, maybe not on the pro level, but there are so many people leaving the boat at the house now. Like, it is crazy.
For it too, just being more backwaters and more kayak friendly areas.
Yeah.
You would think a place like the California Delta would set up good for it, but surprisingly, it really, when I went out there for the first time in a kayak a couple years ago, it didn't really set up as good as I thought. There's some areas where you can kind of get away, but it's really hard to like travel from one place. You got to battle the current, and it's not.
Yeah.
A lot of areas are I don't know. It just didn't. The areas out here in the rest of the country are definitely set up better for more just kayak friendly type of lakes. Not to say,
Right.
yeah, you can fish out of kayak in any type of lake, but yeah, but the lakes out there are just it's a little bit different, where it's almost, you're fishing the same style and same ways a lot of times that you would in a bass boat, where here you can have an option of fishing kind of like how Drew does, in a lot of backwaters, a lot of creeks, a lot of stuff where it's a lot more kayak friendly.
All right.
Clear Lake has some of it too. There's some backwater. There's some stuff. Clear Lake's probably the best out there, I'd say, as far as. But that lake gets so much pressure, and it's not like there's areas where it's more manageable in a kayak, getting in those backwaters and stuff at Clear Lake. But it's still, you're never going to have anything really like to yourself that a bass boat can't get to out there.
Yeah. Well, here's to hoping. I like seeing it. There was actually a bunch of people talking about the whole Greg DePalma thing. Like, is it a black eye that and a Bassmaster Elite steps into the kayak and wins, first try? I could see where some people would say that, like, oh, well, it must not have been that hard. But I don't know. After having him talk about it, and I ran into him this weekend and we got to talk some more. Like, he's pumped up for it. Like,
yeah,
he didn't tell me where his next boat tournament was. He
Others
told
would
me
like
where his
to-
next kayak tournament was.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I got a chance to spend some time with him, and the truth of the matter is the bag that he caught, like, there's big bass boat tournament going on those days too. I guarantee he would have been top 3 or top 5 or whatever. He got
Absolutely.
solid bags of fish, and that's not going to happen every time. You see how many Elite Series guys fish a tournament and not get a limit. I mean, look at the Bassmaster Classic and how few of those guys even got limits. So
Gussie won
they're going to be
without getting a limit the third day.
yeah, exactly. And you're going to see more and more of those bass boat guys kind of making a transition, and some they're going to be more consistent. They're going to finish at the top more times than not. But I'd be pretty shocked if Greg De Palma came in and won every single one of them.
Exactly.
Probably won't happen.
I don't see it as a black eye. I see it.
No.
I think it's just another channel of exposure, and maybe
And
we'll
it
get
just
to
gives
see
the
more
sport.
of it.
Yeah, it'll give the sport that much more credibility too. The more high level anglers you have that come into it, the more credibility the sport gets. I'm open to I hope all the best anglers, bass boat anglers, come and fish it. That'd be awesome.
Heck yeah. So they can start working contract deals with kayak dealers. Who cares? I don't care if your manufacturer gives you your boat. Just come hang out with us, man.
Yeah.
To see the golden side of fishing. But so speaking on next tournament, Russ, we already know you're at Sandy for the Hobie this weekend. What about you, Damian? You're back home in Cali. What you got next?
Yeah, I pretty much have a tournament every weekend. So I believe Saturday we got Central Valley Kayak Fishing, which is a local club event close to my house. And then on that
Mhm.
Sunday, I believe it's Wild West and California Bass Nation on the Delta. And then I believe the following week is I know for sure there's it might be Yakabas the following weekend. And then after that, it'll be an event down south, which is, I believe, Lake Paris for ABA, I want to say.
Wow.
So it's going to be, there's usually a tournament every weekend here in California. So it's going to be a
That's
lot of
nice.
jumping back and forth.
Busy schedule.
Yeah.
I'd go broke, but that sounds nice. Like,
Yeah.
options all the time.
Yeah. There's a lot of trails you can jump in and just, fish whatever one you like or which works with your schedule here. So But I try to fit in everything I can. I think last year I think I might have fished like 35 live events last year, and
Holy
this year
cow.
it's been quite a bit as well. So just busy, busy tournament schedule.
No kidding, man. Well, we'll be sure to keep a watch on the Tourney X stuff and catching up with you, and I'm sure we'll see your name again, and hopefully it never seems to fail. Every time y'all have a good tournament. So what we do is when there's no national tournaments, we pick a big tournament somewhere in the country and we have those guys on. And I think every time I've seen you in the top three, it's been when we're having a recap a Hobie, a Bassmaster, or a KBF. So one of those may just have to go away one weekend so we can get you. And like I'd have loved to have had, like, when I think I remember one where Obidi and you and I think like Mike Ensign were up top. Like that'd have been a great show having those two characters, and you're like the polar up as far as what I'm seeing right now. Like just the attitudes, you're calm, collected, and those guys are just woo, like all
Characters,
the
personalities.
time,
Yeah.
But
They're great.
before we let you go, this is the time we like to let everybody, say their last bit to thank any of your sponsors, anybody that makes your fishing, schedule easier or anything like that. So, Damien, take it away.
I'd like to thank my sponsors, Duo Realis, Garmin, PowerPole, P-Line, First Gen Fishing, Kayak City, MB559 Fishing, Team Custom Lures, LA Custom Jigs, and Wild West Bass Trail. Those guys really helped me out throughout the season and basically the last few years, and those guys have been really helping me out. So really like to thank those guys and thank my friends and family for the constant support. And I'd like to just say congrats to Russ again for wrecking us out there. So much
Thanks, Jamie.
respect for you, man. So
Thanks, buddy. Same.
Big shout out and thanks to your company for finally pushing you over the edge to you just giving them the finger and walking out. I'm out. I quit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fish out a plastic boat for a living.
All right.
Well, Russ, what about you, man?
Yeah, like thank my sponsors, Music City Outdoors. Both of you guys are on the team with me. They're great little shop there, just in downtown Nashville. They got all kinds of different kayak brands. So be sure to stop by and check them out. And owners and the people working there are really friendly, really nice. Let's see, Yak Attack, Torpedo, Wilderness Systems Kayaks, iRod, Catch Outdoors, and Dakota Lithium. I got them all.
Yeah.
Seven?
I was gonna ask you got them all memorized yet?
I was gonna say I'd have to have a note on my phone. Yeah,
I got 7. I know that. So I think that was them all.
You're gonna have to come up with some kind of acronym for them or something and say it.
I have bad memory, man. I'm telling you.
Man, and it's been. I know you guys are exhausted. It's been a long week and a lot of highs and lows, and then like you don't even get to really take it in. Y'all are, either traveling or getting ready for a tournament or both. So it's just been, you'll get to enjoy it. I don't know, next year maybe, but but yeah, maybe we can get you to drag that trophy up to the shop.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Heck
leave
yeah,
it there.
I'd like to look at it. That'd be the closest I ever get to it.
Yeah,
right now in the truck. Like. Whoa, what's going on? There you go. Hanging out in the back seat with me. But yeah,
dude,
do you sleep with it every night, just like cuddled up next to it?
It will be. I got a tent tonight, and so I'm camping out. So I'm gonna, and so usually I sleep in my truck, but I'm gonna put my sleeping gear in my little tent. And yeah, I had a nice relaxing day today. Kind of got back to everybody, and finally, and made a little social media post, and took a couple naps. Had to go to the post office. I've been here all day. Didn't go fishing today, but just happy to catch up on some rest and just have a little time off before I get back after it tomorrow morning.
Well, awesome, dude. Well, we appreciate y'all taking the time to come on again. Damien, it was great to finally be able to get you on. Russ, it was great to have you on again. Congratulations to y'all performing so well and being such great ambassadors for the sport of kayak fishing. I mean, y'all are the two we'd want at the top, making us look good so that this keeps progressing into the future. But we don't want to keep you anymore. The great story. Everybody make sure you go check them out on their socials, read the Bassmaster write-ups, their interviews, go check it out, help blow it up just to, keep them interested in us, and let's just keep this thing rolling and make this, better than the bass boat fishing guys. So, yeah, but
Let's do it.
well, we appreciate y'all guys. Y'all have a good night and good luck to everybody's next event, man.
Sounds
Thanks
good.
for
Yeah, good
having
luck
us
to you
on.
guys.
It was it
Yep.
was fun.
Thanks, you guys.
Heck yeah.
Enjoyed it. Take care.
Appreciate it.
Peace. Awesome show. Awesome show.
Yeah.
I was glad to get these guys on. I was worried it was going to be kind of hard too, because I knew, the tournament ended on, what was it, Thursday, but
yeah,
with the ceremony being on Saturday, I knew it was going to be, a little bit of a challenge. And like, I knew Damian was going all the way back across the country. So I was like, geez, it was, it kind of worked out. Damian came, he didn't come by my booth, but like half the dugout team stopped in my booth, and Damian walked by, and then Garrett chased him down. Good job, Garrett, because I wasn't even thinking about the podcast. I was so busy.
I was like, hey, we probably should try to catch up with him a little bit.
Yeah, I was like, go get him. But no, it was a great time, and we're stoked to have him on, talk about it. I'm stoked that our teammate took the win, because it was a bittersweet, letting the shop know that our guy was on top. So
yeah,
it was.
I mean, that's huge. I mean,
hey, if I can't be the one winning, at least I helped get him on the team. You know what I'm saying? Like,
doing something productive here.
Yeah, I've got to be productive one way or another. But yeah, no, it was a cool event. Glad to get back to it. Sorry we didn't have a show last week, folks, but we were.
Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah, and then this is the one thing that sucks with the kayak championship being in the middle of the week.
Yeah,
I mean, not that how it affected us sucked. I just think that in the middle of the week kind of sucks for you guys.
The part that I did like is it kind of alleviated a little bit of the pressure on the lake, because I feel like if we were trying to fish that on a Saturday, Sunday on Chickamauga in the spring, it'd have been
on top of the other conditions, limited ramps, limited water, all the other variables. Yeah, it could have sucked very quickly.
Yeah.
I
want to real quickly. I want to give a shout out to Orlando that I stayed with this week. Ended up in 11th place.
Yeah, dude,
came up from Texas, man. And yeah, he said he was 3/4 of an inch off from making the top 10, and he had an 18-inch fish or 18 to 19-inch fish hooked and lost it. That would have put him in the top 10. So.
Oh man, that stinks. There was a bunch of that, man. I know Drew came over to the booth and caught up with me, and I hadn't got to hear any of his stories. He told me he lost a couple good key fish back there in those little backwaters that Russ was explaining, and I got to talk to Lambert. It'd have been after day 2 because he was at the expo.
I almost feel bad for him.
No, dude, I really did. All fun and games. I mean, obviously, it's like you're pulling for your boy because he's on your team. He's he's your go-to. But like, I knew going into it, if you read social media, how Lambert likes to fish. French Broad. Everybody remembers that story. Everybody knows what he can do on Gunnersville. Like he's gonna find those big river smallmouth. And when I saw him pop up there, it's like I wasn't like, oh damn, he passed Russ. I was like, oh dude, if he could drop 2 95+ inch days on smallies on Chick, hell yes, like fucking hammer, dude. And when I saw that,
a lot of the problem was the second day, they kind of cut the current off. Like basically quit generating. So.
Anybody knows anything about river smallmouth, if the current dies, those fish just
vanish. I don't know where the heck they go, but they're just like
they either vanish or they lock up. They don't bite. Yeah. It's just you can sit there and stare at them all day, and it doesn't matter. They're not going to bite. Yeah. But I mean, obviously the classic between the boats and the kayaks was in 2 different places, but it was cool to see that. I mean, Gussie, huge shout out to Gussie if you're a bass boat fan. Everybody I know that knows him. And I was with people this weekend that know him very, very closely, and were like, dude, he's the absolute nicest person in the world. Yeah. It couldn't happen to a better guy. But I mean, that tournament, we're talking 17 pounds, 18 pounds. They weren't, Lambert was probably on a 20 to 20 something pound sack.
Yeah,
I mean, Russ caught a
totally different
like
lakes.
7-pounder. Right.
Yeah.
But it'd still be cool. I'd love to have seen. I just one time I just need to see the same thing on the same lake at the same time. Like I'd be fine with a 50-person elite field and a 50-person elite kayak field, and see how it airs out.
I think
I don't
whenever
think
we establish an elite field for kayaks, which kind of are getting there, I think that might be a reality at some point. But
it would be. They could do it right now and just do it as an invite. Let Steve-O, like Steve-O, Chad, and AJ sit down, hand
yeah,
pick 30 anglers. They each get 10 people, and then let sponsors or whoever pick their elites. They could pick the top 10 in AOI from last year. I don't care. I really do have faith that a lot of our guys would show them something. And I think that it's been shown now that even if you designate ramps and tighten the boundaries up, I don't think it matters. These
no,
guys
it
know how
doesn't
to
matter.
they know
It's
how
the
to get it
same
done.
people are going to still be at the top. But
Yeah. But yeah, so it was awesome. It was a great trip. I had a blast at the classic. I got to meet so many people. I had more fun than this than I did at ICAST. A lot of talk from a lot of the guys in the industry saying that is the ICAST now. Like ICAST is dying. I mean, a lot of people were doing their business there. It was
yeah.
meetings and
Well,
contracts being signed in the mornings, and then fun and games
and
and
the other
selling
thing,
product.
they're also like physically selling product there too. It's not just
Yeah,
displaying stuff. It's like
it's a show for everybody, and it's a lot cheaper than ICAST. Just talking with a bunch of the companies I work with and getting to hear the behind the scenes, we're talking drastic differences in prices for booths, and
Hmm.
being able to make a little bit of your money back on that, not have to have these giant budgets. I won't name names, but I mean, there's people that ICAST budgets $2 million, like
Oof,
$2.5 million actually. Like
dang.
you don't have to do that for the classic. Like
Yeah.
you can
You got
spend $50,000 on a main level booth, and then you can, like make that money right back selling product. But yeah, man, it was fun. I can't wait for the next one. Red Crest can do Red Crest next couple of years. It'll be down here in Birmingham, so looking forward to that. I think I may have lost Garrett, but we'll go ahead and I'll go over the tournaments from last week. We got some good ones. Starting off, we just went over the kayak championship on Lake Chickamauga. It was a 2-day tournament. We had 132 anglers. First place was Russ with 180 total inches overall. Damian in second with 176 inches overall, and Luke Graham 173 and a quarter. Couple good fish were caught, like we were talking about the 23 and a quarter. That was a key fish for Aaron Stahlbaum to move on up at the end of the day. Next up, a bunch of local
there was
guys. They
also
were
some
Go ahead.
over 20-inch smallmouth caught there too. So
Yeah, it was putting out
I'm looking at a
puts out some
21
good
and a
ones,
quarter right now.
and it was I'll throw this little stat out there. I think you're the one that told me about it, about the guy that was catching live bait fish. Was that you that was telling me about
Oh
that?
yeah,
So
they caught 52 pounds for 5 fish
on one tree,
on one tree. Yeah, on
and now
chick.
they were live bait fishing, throwing big gizzard shad. I don't care.
Yeah, it's still insane.
I will throw baby goats on a hook if it can get me fish of that quality. I
Yeah,
do not care. Like that is insane. After
I
you
think
told
they
me
had
about it, I
like a
went and looked it up.
12, a couple 10s, and like a 9 or
I
something.
I think it was 2 12s. Dude,
Jesus,
it was nuts. It was absolutely insane. It's the lake record for 5. But but
it's
we'll
awesome
get
that
off that
it
because
still
I'll
produces.
drool over that, man.
Yeah,
I want to know why in the hell 5 fish of that quality were in one spot.
they're
Why?
just staging there. I guess I don't
They were
know.
in a bucket. That's why somebody had a freaking barrel of fish.
Yeah, somebody had their little cage down there. They
Nah.
broke loose or something.
But no, so moving on from that, we'll hit another event. This one, my local boys, it was funny when they were getting ready to close their oh Lord, their signups, their registration. I couldn't think of the word.
Yeah.
One of my buddies, Sam, made a comment, and he was like, "We're at 25 boys, or we're at 24 guys. We need one more guy so that Jimmy will talk about us on Paddle and Fin." And they got to 26 guys. So it was the Coleman Kayak Anglers event on Moulton, the Moulton Open. It was the 2 Moulton Lakes and the Taylor Camp Lake. I ain't telling nobody else on this podcast anymore about that because it is not areas that any of y'all need to know about. So y'all can all just get over that. But first place, it was a 4-fish limit. First place was DP Dan Perry, man, my old co-host. He got 62 3/4 for his best 4. Second place was Kenneth Robertson with 16.5, and third place my man Spencer Miller with 58.5. So there were some good fish caught, and then it was stingy for a few people. So
that was a 4-fish limit. Is that what you said?
Yep. Okay. Yeah. But those two, the only thing I'll say about those 2 lakes is they're like polar opposites of each other to be within 10 miles of each other. So I don't know anything about the third area, but it is kind of crazy that like the way that place sets up. But so we'll move on to the next one. And this one, my wife, I've said it before, my wife does all the Tourney X stuff because she's very organized and types up a really good layout. She was like, holy shit, and like, come look at this. So the Southeast Texas Kayak Bass League was on Houston County Lake in Crockett, Texas. There's 117 anglers, 5-fish limit. There were 7, 8, 9, 10 fish caught over 23 inches.
Jesus Christ.
First place, Ricky Yulg, I probably said that wrong, and I'm sorry, had 113 inches. And he still had a 17-inch fish on his stringer. He had a 26, a 23.5, a 23, and I think a 20 and a 17. Holy shit. And then second place, Tyler Howell, had 102 inches. How do you come in with 102 inches and still get beat? Like, that doesn't happen. That would break my heart. But at the same time, you had a 102-inch day, you probably don't care. Like, you just possibly had the best day you've ever had. But Desmond James had 97.5. He had a 23 3/4 and a 23. Like, so if he only had 97 inches with those 2 giants, we're talking he still had wiggle room to have an even bigger bag with like 2 9s in his bag. Tim Rodman had 4th place. He had a 23 1/4. 20th place had a 23 1/4. 40th place had a 23.5. 56th place had a 23.5. 60th place had a 23 1/4. There were giant fish caught. I'm so glad that this happened because now it's on my radar. I got to go to that lake and see what the hell that place is all about.
Yeah. So what was Big Bass in that? Was it the guy that got first with the 26?
I would hope so. You know what? We're going to take just a second and I'm going to look it up.
Yeah.
Because I want to know, dadgummit.
I can't. I mean, if that got beat, that's insane.
I can't believe like 113 inches and like you still had it's not small, but when you're catching those quality fish, it's small for everything else you've got on your stringer. That was not it. There it is. All right, so let's take a look real quick, and I'm gonna show this giant. Holy cow! Here we go. I'm going to share this up on the screen for anybody still with us on the YouTubes.
Jesus.
It takes up the entire catch board. It's honestly, you could probably have got 26 1/4 out of it, but it doesn't matter. You don't have catch board.
Yeah, you don't have the catch. You need that 32-inch board for that thing. Wow.
That was nuts. Let me see if there's anything else on anybody's stringer that's bigger than that. I highly doubt it, but Jesus, you never know.
I think if you scroll to the bottom, it'll tell you just what the big bass was of the day. Oh, never mind.
I thought it used to highlight it differently. But no, 26. I mean, so
I'm just going to assume that that's what it was, but
yeah. So we'll just take a glance at a couple of these other big fish to see like how healthy these things are looking. So that one not as plump, but still a donkey. Donkey. I mean, that's every bit of 6 pounds or more. Easy.
Yeah.
We'll look at somebody else's fish. thick.
Fat
Golly.
fish.
And they don't look like pre-spawn fat. They just look healthy. Like they don't have big bulging bellies. That's a kayak bass. That's what I'm talking about.
Long fish.
That thing's like 4 pounds. No, I'm just kidding. Now that's awesome. I'll get back to it, but I had to give that tournament some. She showed me those numbers. I was like, oh, I can't wait to talk about that one. But yeah, just a few more, and we'll get out of here, folks. We're running long. So next up is Natural State Kayak Anglers on the Beaver Lake in Fayetteville, Arkansas. 48 anglers. First place, Josh Landreth with 80 3/4. Second place was Sam McClish, also with 80 3/4. I'm assuming there was a big fish tiebreaker right there. Third place was James Haverhill with 76.5. Next up was the Georgia Kayak Fishing League, Small Water Showdown, Bear Creek Reservoir, Black Shoals Reservoir, Hard Labor Creek. 29 anglers, 5 fish limit. Mike Watson, first place with 89 3/4. California Zhang with 88 3/4. That's a cool name. Third place, Naoto Lee with 88. Justin Speece, shout out to him. 25th place, caught an almost 24-inch fish, monster. Next up was the North Texas Kayak Championships, Lake Worth, 93 anglers. First place, Jordan Westerman, 102 1/4 inches. So a bunch of big fish caught in that one. Second place, Alex Blancano with 94.5, and third place, Ben Huffman with 84. There was a huge gap between third place and first place, almost 20 inches, 18-inch, like a whole fish gap. Like,
insane.
That's a big gap. Next up, the Kayak Anglers Association of Central Arizona on Lake Havasu, 63 anglers. First place, Isaac Koa with 92 3/4. Second place, JJ Gibbs with 90.5. Third place, Jeffrey Bias with 89 3/4. Next up's the Arizona Bass Nation qualifier on Lake Havasu as well. 49 anglers. First place, Anthony Garcia with 92.5. Second place, JJ Gibbs with the 90 inches. Third place, John Toscano with 89 3/4. I wonder how he had 90 inches on one tournament. And so JJ Gibbs got second in both of the Havasu tournaments, but he got second with 90.5 in one and 90 in the other
one.
I'm
was it on different days?
That could have been it. I did not look into that. That could have been it.
I'm looking at because they had the KBF going on at the same time. Is that right?
Oh, they did. Oh God, I forgot to pull up. I
just got it pulled up here.
Cool. Let me finish. Let me do this last one real quick. The California Slay Nation on Millerton Lake, 33 anglers, 5 fish limit. Kong Yang 74 1/4. John Myers 73, and Pang Een with 71 1/4. And I'll let you do the chaos.
All right. So the KBF trail on Lake Havasu was also going on with those other Havasu events. It looked like day one, you had Anthony Garcia in first place with 92.5. JJ Gibbs in second with 90 inches. And then third was Jeff Bias with 90 inches. So I guess JJ had the big bass tiebreaker with a 20 1/4.
Nice.
For day two, you had a little better. Looks like a lot better. Day two, you had first place with 94 1/4. Second place with 94.
Who was your day one, and who's your day two winner?
Bryce Gibbs for first place. John Demonet. Yeah.
John Demonet. Yeah, we've shouted him out a few times.
With 94 inches, and then Jeff Bias with 93 inches.
So good job.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Garcia had 92 1/4. So that was the guy that had first place the first day.
Yeah.
Who won? So that's the. All right. So for the double up, because it's 3 tournaments basically, you had Anthony Garcia. That's who won the double up with 184 3/4. Nice. Damn, so it outfished Chick.
Well, I mean, it's Lake Havasu. It's kind of historical.
Yeah.
I mean, according to who you ask, it's a bucket list lake for me. Like,
yeah,
Lake Havasu, Lake Amistad. Like, I'd like to go out there.
That seems like a cool place. And then you had Jeff Bias with 183 inches and John Toscano with 181 inches.
Nice. Well, shout out to those guys for getting it done on Havasu. Shout out to everybody else that did good this weekend, and shout out to all you listeners for listening to me and Garrett this long, because we are way late than we normally are. But I wanted to talk about really big Texas bass and the classic some more. So yeah, y'all listen or go away. I'm just kidding. Don't go away. We love you. Well, man, anything else? Anything to touch on? Good news, bad news, old news, new news?
I think that covers it for this
Big
week.
fish, small fish, one fish, two fish.
What do we got coming up next?
I have no clue.
Santee Cooper this weekend.
Yep. So we'll get the Santees on. I actually think there was another KBF event that happened, because I remember hearing of a female winning this weekend. I think there were two KBF events that happened this weekend, so I may try to get the winner from that one.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it.
Here, I'll pull it up.
Later, but...
I should be able to Facebook it. KBF. We'll at least give them two a shout out real quick, and then we'll get out of here. Let's see. Shout out to Anthony Garcia. We did that one. Yeah. See, it says oh, never mind. Those are midday updates. My bad.
Oh. Are you talking about, folks. Is it Aaron Mathis?
Rachel Urab.
Oh, no.
That was day 2. She was day 2.
Okay.
I thought that was the finale. I didn't read the whole midday update part. So, but hey, she still was sitting on a bag. So congrats.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, freaking sack. So, well, I guess that's it for us, man. I guess we'll see everybody next week. We may have a bonus episode. We're going to try to find some time to get Richard on to talk about the Paddle and Fin Del Hollow event that's coming up. If you haven't signed up for it, you need to. It's coming up the 22nd and 23rd. Your favorite host, me, is going to be down there. Garrett's coming, doing a little joint club event with them. It'll be a fun time. It's always good. There's giveaways. We act stupid. We get out and fish. We usually suck.
Yeah.
Maybe hopefully we'll get some of our favorites fishing with us. The Riser coming out and hanging out with us. I know there's a Bass Nation event that weekend, but yeah, it's going to be a good time, man. There's free camping. There's great deals on houseboats and cabins. Come on out, have some beer, have some food, catch some fish, enjoy a beautiful Del Hollow, see my beautiful face.
Hopefully the weather's good and all that.
God, I hope so. I would just like for it to be nice there one time when I'm there. Let's say it was nice last year.
Yeah, it was last year. It was nice, but it was almost too nice.
Well, and we were there during a giant bass boat tournament, and
Toyota
that lake had been beat to death by A-rigs by the time I got on it. Everybody was throwing A-rigs except
A-rigs and little swim baits.
Yeah, A-rigs, little swim baits, and jigs. Apparently, I was throwing all the wrong things. But and I was chasing. I'm pretty sure I was chasing a walleye around at one point when I was on the phone with you. I was okay with that because that's what I wanted to catch.
Get you some dinner.
Exactly. But we'll see everybody next week, same time, same place. Unless we get cancel cultured between now and then. But until then, yeah. Until then, everybody have a great time. Everybody be safe. Go catch some big fish. Share it to us. We'll shout you out. We love y'all. We'll see y'all later. Peace.